Before then, we have the one and only, our love doctor, Hilton Samuel, in the studio. And Hilton's here to talk about emotional affairs. Good afternoon to you, Hilton.
Well, top of the day. Good afternoon. I am so tickled to be in the studio again.
I'm so tickled to have you. It's been too long. Where have you been?
Well, I've been out and about, and you know, life takes its toll.
It does indeed. So Hilton, you want to be talking about emotional affairs?
Yes, I would love to talk about
what are emotional affairs?
Well, I mean, I think people are very familiar with what affairs are.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't know that you can actually have an affair through your emotions. You're actually somehow or the other having some kind of pseudo relationship, I call it, with someone who isn't your primary relationship partner.
Right.
In other words, even though intercourse isn't actually involved, and I think the men will get to me with this, because depending on which gender you speak to, you will have a different understanding or a different version of this emotional affair thing. Men generally, if you were to ask a man, you know, he could flirt, he could do lots of things, but as long as he doesn't go as far as sex,
yes,
he doesn't consider it to be an affair. However, if you talk to women, women are a little bit more ticklish, a little bit more particular about this, is if he's spending too much time speaking to this person, if he's if he's having, or if he's engaged with this person in a way that he shouldn't be, you know, talking long hours on the phone, checking his email late at night, getting text messages, having lunches over a protracted period of time, and actually getting his emotional and psychological needs met with someone else, particularly if it's in secret.
Yes.
If the person doesn't know, then that is what I consider to be an emotional affair. In other words, if your partner finds out about it, how would your partner feel about this liaison that you have with this individual?
So you said, Hilton, that for men, I mean, men don't regard that as an affair because there's no sex involved.
Yes, men have a slightly, should I say perverted? I don't want to say perverted, but a slight different outlook on it.
Right. But I mean, but are they actually going through the rigmarole? These are men I'm talking about now. Are they going through the rigmarole in anticipation that sex will be involved?
A lot of men actually.
Yeah.
A lot of men actually. I mean, let me just say, what they've found that a lot of people actually engage in emotional affair didn't set out on the outset with that intention.
Right.
Okay? It simply crawled up on them. It hit them on the broad side, in the blind spot, as it were, because they begin to interact with someone who actually titillate them, who give them some sort of emotional high, and the more they do it, the more they, and eventually it slides into a physical affair.
Right.
And you know, some people think, oh my God,
where did that come from?
Where did that come from?
Yes.
They didn't see it crawling up on them. They didn't see the signs. And there is a point I want to make. A lot of people are naive, and this naivety, they think it can happen to them, particularly if they if they're religious, if they have high standards. They think this thing could never happen to me. And there are a lot of myths out there with regards to affairs. A lot of people think that something must be wrong in your relationship for you to have an affair. Some people tend to think that if a person goes out and have an affair, he or she is actually fulfilling a need that isn't being supplied in the relationship. We have found that that is not necessarily the case.
Right.
There are people who are in happy, healthy relationships who actually have affairs. So that's a myth I would like to demystify.
So why do they have affairs? Is it just because opportunity is knocking?
Right, yes. You've just hit the nail at the head. There are about 3 or 4 different factors. The first one is opportunity. And what we have found now, more women are having affairs, just as many women are having affairs as there are men. And I think that is primarily due to the fact that with the onslaught of the liberation of women out of the home into the workplace, they have a lot more freedom, they're interacting with a vast array of different people. They
have a social network.
They have a social network
yes.
outside their primary relationship. So opportunity is one. Vulnerability is another. Values is another. If your values aren't very high, your sense of commitment is yet another. And there are some people who are predisposed to this. I think they would like to hear me say that, oh, it's in my genes.
But that's what I'm supposed to do.
But apparently, it's self-evident, and research has borne this out. If you grew up in a home where cheating was the norm of the day, where you're more prone to that than others.
Absolutely. People it's learned behaviour.
Yes, it's learned behaviour, and you don't have as strong a sense of abhorrence about it as a person who didn't have that exposure. Then there are people who are in very vulnerable situations. And when I say vulnerable, I don't mean that they're particularly vulnerable in and of themselves. For example, politicians, people who have high profile.
Yes.
Politicians, businessmen, pastors, priests, and all these people are more prone to this because they interact with the opposite sex in a very confidential way. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Absolutely.